I love the things that I do, even the stories that don't really matter too much, but I do them all the same way, with the same amount of passion. It's just the funnier ones, the lighter ones, they don't mean as much in the end as the ones where you give your blood and soul for, right? But they still mean something. People always say to me, "Oh, what's it like, doing Aerosmith or Michael Bublé or something, or finding an ancient shipwreck, and rather than being at war?" And I always think it's a slightly odd question, because what kind of person only goes to war, right? Everybody likes to watch movies and listen to great music, and the chance to sit down in front of someone who's truly great at what they do, whatever that happens to be, is an extraordinary privilege for me. And every time you go back to zero, at 60 Minutes, when we embark on one of these stories, you're starting from nothing in a sense, and you have to educate yourself about all kinds of things that are not your expertise. I spent nearly 5 years living in Baghdad, the height of the violence. I was in Iraq for the last months of Saddam Hussein's regime. I was in Iraq for the invasion. I was in Afghanistan living with the Afghan soldiers on their front line when they were fighting the Taliban. I was there when the Afghans took Kabul. It's always funny to me that we like to talk about the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, but if you talk to Afghans, actually, the Afghans who fought that war, they will tell you that there was no U.S. invasion. There was a U.S. bombing campaign that aided the Afghans in taking their country back from the Taliban. But there were not more than a couple hundred U.S. Special Operations troops and clandestine fighters on the ground at the time. And I started to talk about the situation of women in Egypt. He said, "Well, this is a discussion for another time. This is not for Egypt now. This is a deeply entrenched cultural thing. It'll take decades for these things to be addressed, and they have to be addressed from within and not from the outside." And of course, there's some truth to that. But I think it's important not to close our eyes to it. I think that I have managed. I'm still carving my place out, but I think that I have managed to, at the very least, show that it's the work that does matter, because I don't think that I would be here if it weren't that the work mattered more than everything else. So for those of you who've lost faith in a lot of the media, and I understand why, because a lot of it isn't worth listening to or watching, but not all of it. That's the thing, not all of it. There are lots of journalists like me out there who are really trying to do something that they believe in. And that's where I gravitate towards in trying to make sense of the world.